All right, hi everyone. Welcome to another DeFi Academy learning session where we talk all things DeFi. Uh, Hope everyone's keeping well. Before I welcome the guests and get their insights, uh, I just want to create a little bit of a backdrop to the interview by kind of breaking down the discussion topic today and providing a brief explanation on some of the key terms. So today's topic is governance and a DAO and why it pays to take long-term bets in DeFi protocols. So it's important that I provide some clarity to the topic. So when we mean by governance, we actually mean by decentralized governance. And when we mean by taking long-term bets long-term bets, I mean long-term bets in the right DeFi protocol. So we're not suggesting every DeFi protocol will succeed long-term. And I'm not saying you should take long-term bets in every DeFi protocol. And when we mean by long-term bets, I mean buying into the governance token of that protocol and holding it long-term. So the question is, how do you find the right DeFi protocol? So before we discuss about that, I just want to mention about a few key terms. So the key terms is a DAO and what is governance. So in terms of what is a DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It was actually first hypothesized by Vitalik back in 2014 when he created a white paper during the time of Ethereum launching. So the actual structure of a DAO came as a result of envisioning how features of decentralized technology like censorship resistance, automated actions, global assets, all that components, how that will change how an organization will work. So the definition of a DAO, is constantly evolving. So back in 2014, DAO could be described as a capitalized organization in which the software protocol manages its operation by putting first automation and putting human intervention in the periphery as much as possible. So that quickly developed to the idea that organizational values could be automated and executed by code. So, but as to who governs the decision making is kind of loosely termed, and that's where it changes. So it could be a team member, it could be a group of people, could be the community at large. It really differs. So fast forward that to 2021, and in the context of a DeFi protocol, a DAO is pretty much transferring ownership pretty much to the wider community. So the larger the distribution is usually seen as a positive thing if you can get tokens the most distributed. So it's pretty much like strangers, friends, come together to a common goal supported by a token model, incentives, and governance. So the members of a DAO, can have representative ownership of its assets, which simultaneously acts as a governance right. So now governance in a DeFi context is all about democratization of the decision making. So DeFi protocols, use usually, by and large, a DeFi protocol, use a term called, they use a form of governance called explicit representative or liquid democracy. So it basically comes to the term that representative democracy is pretty much allows individuals to elect a group of officials to make decisions and form the policy on their behalf. A liquid democracy is more dynamic. It's a general form of governance in which people can either vote directly or delegate their vote to a representative to vote on their behalf. And the voting power is usually determined by ownership of governance token. So the more the tokens, the more the weightage of the vote. there are a couple of other forms of governance, like council-controlled and founder-controlled governance, but that's more on council control is more on a blockchain level. Ethereum, where is a good example of the council control membership, where the developers take most of the decision making on behalf of the users. So the best analogy, I could probably give on that combines the DAO governance and DeFi protocol is similar to kind of how like a civilization or great city comes into being. Right now, DeFi and DeFi protocols are very, very early in its life cycle. So much akin to kind of like a small trading center. So without a DAO and governance, DeFi protocol is pretty much transaction based. Just traders, investors come for yield, in search of putting their crypto assets to better use. A DAO and a governance just changes that dynamic just over the top of the head. So basically, it enables a protocol to grant ownership rights. Going from pure transaction to transactional to communal. So as the protocol kind of evolves, there's a sense of responsibility, for the participating token holders to kind of maintain and evolve the ecosystem being built around it. So, like civilization. So the biggest beneficiaries and trade merchants usually use their new wealth to make their town even more attractive. So they build temples, they build theaters, schools, and then they fund the kind of priests and playwrights and teachers, and scholars to come together to fuel that culture. So that mechanism kind of drove development that welcome more residents, and it's a value cycle that created more people coming in and made the city stronger, civilization stronger. So a world-class DAO, in my opinion, and a well-run decentralized governance system with a clever use of the DAO treasury is key to create that culture in a DeFi protocol. I feel like the meme game, the whole culture, the aura around the protocol is its biggest hurdle to success, and a protocol's greatest differentiator is its culture. So a DAO and governance has an important role to play in the success of a DeFi protocol, and whether it's adopted by the majority. So it's really, it's in my opinion, it's one of the most important topics that we'll be discussing on the DeFi Academy channel. So sorry, giving a bit of a geography lesson. So I just parked my thoughts there. So hopefully, with the help of the experts from the guests today, I really want to shed some light to the DeFi enthusiasts on what can be done from a protocol level in creating that world-class DAO and the governance framework with it. In the process, I want to kind of break down the issues surrounding a DAO, and importantly, what users need to look at to identify the right protocols and how users can create value. With that being said, I'm extremely excited to introduce and chat with our guest today. We welcome back Daiki for today's discussion, who, in spite of being busy with OM and everything that's going around it, is joining us. So thank you very much for being here, and also Scott. Thank you very much, Scott, Daiki. I know you guys are really busy. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. Thanks for hosting. It's an important topic.
Thanks for having us. Yep. Excited to chat about these topics. We talk about it every day.
Just to remind everyone, nothing mentioned here is financial advice. And
of course.
And also, if anyone has any questions or wants to share their thoughts, please feel free to jump in. Just raise your hand. I'll get you guys on. So, Scott, can I start with you? Why is a well-functioning DAO demanded by the market, and why does the founders kind of why are they clamoring to create their own DAO? Is it on a
Well,
just to get away from the regulatory framework?
I do think that that's definitely a key part of it is kind of the regulatory arbitrage for however long that exists. But yeah, in terms of like, I guess what your question is, why are people moving towards DAOs rather than like what makes a good DAO, right? Why are they moving towards DAOs? Yeah, I would say like, yeah, a lot of it is the regulatory arbitrage. I'd also say like having the DAO structure is a great way to kind of bootstrap a user base as well. You get people that are like really passionate and build like a strong community around it, rather than maintaining full control end to end over your product and vision. I think it's important to have good leadership both from the community and those that started it. But yeah, I think like in terms of why go for a DAO versus something that's completely centralized, I definitely think the lack of control by the founding team is an important aspect from a regulatory standpoint.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Daiki, what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I think so a little bit of different take. I just personally find this whole dog concept pretty interesting, and just feel that it is kind of like an evolution of like how a lot of organizations will be structured going forward. Like in the past, we've kind of gone from like the centralized entities to now decentralized entities, and there are obviously pros and cons. And I'm not just saying like DAOs are like solutions for everything. But I think it is definitely like approaching things differently from how it has been done. So I think for specific use cases, DAOs are probably a better fit, just from like how it's organized in terms of our organization. So I just think it's like actually pretty interesting organizational experiment that may succeed in some specific use cases, and I'm hoping that DeFi protocols would be one of those use cases.
Yeah, it's really
so to kind of like go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Scott. Yep.
Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so you mentioned like why are so many founders going for DAOs, and I actually want to build off what Daiki said maybe a little bit. Is just I also do find it very interesting. I think that is a lot of the reason why founders are doing that, but I also wouldn't necessarily say founders are clamoring to go with the DAO structure. It's easy to say that like kind of in our space and like our kind of bubble that we're in, but I would say the amount of startups that are DAOs versus the amount that are not is still obviously heavily skewed towards those that are not. So I'd say it is a lot more on like the interest side as well. If there was like some massive regulatory arbitrage or there would be maybe a lot more traction than we're seeing. It's still fairly niche, I would say, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, yes, and also I've seen quite a few protocols, moving back and forth. They go start from a DAO and then realize it doesn't really work out, and then they realize, DAO is really important. Shapeshift comes to mind. They're really, looking at moving the DAO. So I think that's really important trend that's going on, and I think they really see the value in. They've really seen the practical value of a DAO. I think. Being both sides of the fence, I think.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Now, just the next question. I mean, now obviously the discussion topic is on why it pays to take long-term bets on the right protocols. Since Balance and OM are protocols that obviously hasn't been around to analyze long-term. I also want to ask you examples. If you can provide, if any governance tokens in particular, have paid to hold long term, say 1 year plus, purely from a price appreciation standpoint. I know we don't like talking about price, but just want to get it out there, just from a personal level. What projects have you seen kind of fulfilling that?
So, what was the question exactly? Which projects have we seen fulfilling?
Yeah. What? Yeah, just in terms of just holding long term in terms of price appreciation, their governance tokens, how.
So which protocols have had their governance tokens? Moon is the question.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Synthetics, I think has done pretty well. Curve, I don't know about Curve from like its initial starting price versus what it is now, but like that's kind of. Not as relevant, I would say, like kind of the early prices during the price discovery phase. But Yeah, I mean, synthetics definitely comes to mind. It's one of the bigger, DAO operated projects out there, or in terms of like how decentralized it actually is and how little control the team actually has.
Yeah, I think they're quite far ahead in terms of how they're very popular as well.
Right. I mean, they actually did like a fundraise from their DAO, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
It was like what happened behind the scenes and such, but their DAO fund like sold tokens to VCs, which I thought was pretty interesting.
yeah,
CoinDesk article on it.
yeah, that's true. Daiki?
Yeah, I've personally found projects like Sushi and Yearn pretty interesting, just because of like this fair lunch concept. And then those price took some beating. I think Sushi, for example, earlier on, but I think as they built on like a strong community around their sushi memes, I think they were able to build like a pretty loyal community. So I think those projects kind of come to my mind when talking about which projects have been kind of successful in a DAO fashion. Because I could feel like even compared to some other projects out there, I feel like those are probably most towards I think kind of in a right track to be a DAO, because like there is like really like no like one person leader, so to speak, but it is basically like an aggregate of contributors basically contributing to the protocol. Yeah, so those projects come to my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, like kind of like, just another question I wanted to ask you. So now kind of like choosing the right DeFi protocol to invest long term, is obviously not easy uh, to speculate on. But there are obviously the many pitfalls and risks in DeFi. Not forgetting obviously the price volatility that comes with having the owning tokens, governance tokens. What advice would you kind of give to new investors in the space, in trying to find the right tokens and find the right yield farming protocols to look at? What kind of research should someone do, or is it just trial and error? Scott?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not financial advice. So I'm a little uncomfortable with just like how that question was phrased, to be honest. But in terms of like evaluating, what I think is really important from a DAO perspective, token price completely aside, what I think is valuable is having a really strong and educated community, which is why I spend so much time on it. Just like engaging with the community, answering questions, talking to people, shooting the shit. Really, it's just really important to have high bar for community engagement and like how the community views itself. It's not a place to talk shit on each other and be disrespectful and mouth off and vent if the market's going down. It's a place to make for constructive discussion, for the growth of something that we all care about and all have a vested interest in. So setting the bar for the community, I think, is extremely important. So if, you're looking in a chat room and there's no leaders at all, like whether it's community or original founders, there's just no leadership that behaves in a respectful and professional way, then I think that's a pretty bad sign from the start.
Yeah, that's true. I think you made a very good point in terms of separating the price element and emotions. I think the best time to see, as you mentioned, is during a bear market and just going into the chat rooms and seeing what they're chatting about. If is it active? Is it dead silent? I think that's a dead giveaway if it's a project is sound or not.
Yeah, and then something else that just came to mind that I wanted to add is like, when back in like the ICO days, it was a lot more of like, what is the team doing for me? And it's like sense of entitlement amongst investors in the ICO that the team needs to do this, team needs to do that. It's very centralized, like push kind of mentality of like the community saying, team, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
But a good DAO is much more so the community talking about how they can help the team. And I've already seen that imbalanced a lot, which is very promising, of people taking initiative and doing things that they see that, how can they supplement the team rather than like force the team to do more kind of thing. So that I think is really important in terms of community growth and community engagement.
Yeah. Daiki?
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo what Scott said over there. So I think, what is it? in general, like my advice in general is, again, this is not a financial advice, but I've always told Scott ever since like the DeFi summer started, like, don't buy these governance tokens, but just always earn them, right? I mean, that's what they are for. I mean, that's like the true purpose of these governance tokens. Like, if you go back to like why these protocols started actually issuing these governance tokens, to reward their users to basically participate in the actual governance of the protocol that they're using, which I think is fascinating, right? Because to me, it's like a kind of like a next version of catering this customer satisfaction, where customers not just can complain or propose something to just the team, but now they can actually have a power to actually influence on how the product should be or protocol should be changed. So I think that's how these governance tokens have really started initially, to really give that power to users. Unfortunately, as these tokens started to have value, I think there are a lot of speculators coming in. But in general, like, I mean, my ethos is always, like, just earn these tokens, right? This is for users to basically, participate in the protocol and then influence the protocol. So I'll just start off with that. And I think going along with that, as these users have more power to control how these protocols should be changed, I think it's very important that these community members have to be educated, right? And I think that's why this Defi Academy that you're leading is great, because we need these sessions for more of these folks to be educated about what is DeFi, what is governance, like what are some good practices. We've already seen since the airdrop announcement yesterday, like there's a lot of questions, just like very basic, simple questions, and I think it's important that we kind of elevate the level of amount of information these community members have to the next level. So I think educating community members is very important. I think also it's just like, I think Scott ended it with this, but, it's like DAO is like a very interesting concept, but, it really doesn't mean anything if it's just like a few select team members are leading it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, DAO is like meaningful when everyone who's involved in the protocol is trying to add value in one way or the other. And it's like, it all goes together, right? Like, you got, like, the users are getting tokens so they can influence the protocol, but also for them to actually add value to the protocol themselves, and hopefully that will like benefit the protocol. And then, that may help them in retrospect, right? So these things all go together. And I think it's important that, the community is well educated, but also always trying to figure out like how they can be helpful to the protocol as well.
Yeah, I just can't, echo. I mean, it's what you guys both said, hit the nail on the head. I think sometimes they don't really, maybe users don't really, haven't really worked in a DAO or exposed to a kind of decentralized framework, because obviously when you're in a decentralized framework, there's a level of kind of ownership from your side personally, how you can help the protocol develop. It's not about asking the team members what can be done. Obviously there's a little bit of that, but majority should be how can we help the protocol develop. I'm invested in it. Part of my responsibility is to make it succeed. I think that's important. Yeah, just on the next question I wanted to ask you. So obviously both Ohm and Balance, why the Icon Foundation, promote airdrips. Scott, with the experience so far on the airdrip for Balance tokens, do you think the airdrip has caused recipients to kind of go like this is free money, I'll just take it and not think long term? Is there an element of that involved, or does the benefit of incentivize users to use a protocol outweigh kind of the costs of a certain percentage of users kind of thinking short term? What are your views and observations so far on that?
From the airdrip in general?
Yep.
Like whether or not I think it's a good thing? Yeah, I would say like that, because it's like really quite a small amount of the overall inflation that's going to that. It's like no more than 10%, maybe less, and of that, like only half is claimed. It looks like roughly. So because of that, I'd say that overall it was a good initiative, and I'm glad OMM is doing it as well. But I think like looking at the data, I would say looking at the data, it helps smaller users get more involved. Like people who are getting, kind of smaller ICX holders that maybe didn't want to participate in balance because they were nervous to risk their stack of ICX. Those people tended to hold on to the tokens or like use them in the platform, and maybe they wouldn't have used the platform at all, without the airdrip. So I do think overall it was a net positive. I think there's probably, if I put more thought into it, some things that could have been changed potentially to make it better. But overall, I think it was a net positive.
Yeah.
In terms of like user acquisition and getting people to learn about our product.
Yeah, I think that user acquisition part would have probably outweighed, because as you mentioned also, like I check weekly, and I don't think the utilization of the airdrop, I mean, the majority have utilized it on any given week from what I recall. I don't know if that's correct, but
right. Yeah. No, I mean, and the other thing is like even if the person is just claiming and selling straight away, for balance at least, like
it goes to the right
gets
token
them to come to
holders.
the product, log in. Well, yeah, that for sure. It goes to our LPs. And then what's it called? But even outside of that, it gets them to go to app.balance.network, log in, play around with it, go to the trade page. They learn how to use it, and they still experience it. So pretty much no matter what you do with your balance tokens, we still got a user out of you if you claimed your airdrip and sold it. So there is still some merit to that.
Daiki, what are your expectations on the OM airdrop?
Yes, I think as I've been saying on the Discord chat quite a bit, airdrip is always just like more of like for people to taste. It's like a way to just like intrigue interest in people, right? So obviously it's never going to be as much as like utilizing the OM itself. So if we're just waiting for the airdrip to happen, I would recommend just come to OM and try utilizing it. You're better off that way, most likely. And airdrip, I think it's just like in general like a good marketing tactic, right? You're basically get this new token, which may or may not have value, and then you just like kind of intrigued like what this is, right? So as a result, you have to come to your own website to claim, and then once you come to the website, we'll kind of start looking around, and then they may intrigue you to like look at, like maybe I should try this and whatnot. So I think it serves its purpose. We've done some analytics on what people do with their balanced airdrip, and concluded that it was still worth it after kind of looking at the data. Yeah. Okay. But the amount itself obviously isn't going to be anything meaningful. So yeah.
No, that's good. That's really positive here. To my next question, one key reason, as to why users, haven't really warmed or, adapted to the full extent of governance rights, in my opinion, or even, looked at a long term, is I feel the price volatility of a protocol's, governance token kind of skews individual users to think short term, look at a profit taking mindset. And I feel the tokenomics, economics, has to play a key role, to get the DAO and governance functioning as it should be and get people aligned to strategy. What elements of the token economics is balanced and looking at? It's interesting because when I looked at the token economics, balanced is more on more on giving rewards and tokens, kind of spreading the distribution, and OM is kind of looking at it like, okay, fine, we will secure most of the coins in the DAO, make it strong, and go on that route. Scott, what was the thinking behind the token economics of balanced?
Yeah, to be honest, I do have some regrets around that. And I'd say there's definitely some learnings there from the initial proposal that we had with that we have right now in terms of distributions. I definitely want to put more into the DAO fund than kind of giving it all out. I think like it's a lot easier to do before the product launches because you don't see this like harsh slash in APY.
Yep.
That'll happen when the product is already live if you're like moving money from incentive programs to the Dow fund. But I think it's important to have a Dow fund for like a relatively strong one for the long term growth of the project. For like temporary incentive programs is one of the most important in my view, is like being able to slice off some balance tokens from the Dow fund and say like, all right, BTP is live and we want to incentivize people to deposit BNB tokens, for example, as collateral on Balanced. Right now, we're only going to be able to do that a handful of times based on the Dow fund allocation. But we are going to go through a proposal. I plan on posting the initial discussion topic tomorrow, where pretty much we just move some incentives from borrowers over to the Dow fund because I think kind of like we've over incentivized that activity a little bit. But overall, like these things should be flexible is one thing I want to say. Like, the Dow needs to experiment and see the results of various different changes in incentive mechanisms. And one thing that we're working on to give the Dow members some transparency into this is like something very similar to financial statements, where we're just going to be like it's a back-end service that will host that aggregates kind of all the fees generated by Balanced since it started.
Awesome.
And it's various different origination fees and DEX fees are the two sources of fees, and comparing those two and being able to see like, all right, like we executed this proposal on this day. Let's see how revenue did, for the following 2 months compared to the 2 months before that. And giving people those tools to be able to make informed decisions, I think, is really important. And kind of like my background in banking and stuff, like I'm actually just really excited for this to use personally as well.
Yeah, I think Scott, that's such an important thing, because in a traditional perspective, from a traditional corporate viewpoint of voting rights and governance, it's pretty black and white. Users kind of understand exactly, or people who have voting rights in a company knows exactly what they need to do, obviously, and it's very transparent in terms of they know the cash flows and the profit and loss at the end of the day. It's aligned. Everything's aligned.
The cool thing is that in theory, like as opposed to a traditional financial statement with a traditional company, like anybody could put together what I'm doing right now. Of course, I think it's important, and I want to spend team resources on building this. But in theory, anybody could do this. All the financials and all the revenue and all the costs are 100% completely transparent. That anybody could kind of aggregate this data and check it out themselves as well, which is kind of going back to the importance on a regulatory side for a DAO. I think that's just really cool feature of building a blockchain-based business.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I don't know very many DeFi protocols that actually go to that level of transparency. I don't know if I've not seen that, if actually posting to the expense of expenses and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't see. Well, I mean, the expenses are going to be like the payouts to token holders, which was voted by token holders, right? So, yeah, I mean, either way, yeah, like I haven't seen that either, and I kind of just something that I just want to see myself. So I figured let's make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, actually. Daki, what are your thoughts on this?
I was listening to what Scott was saying. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah,
I kind of brought a tangent there.
Yeah.
So basically, I just wanted to know kind of what was the question again? That's a good point. So yeah,
sorry about that, guys.
So yeah, it's basically about where is it, the question?
Okay, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
Damn. I derailed everybody.
So asked about where is the question?
I like really want you to remember this. It's killing me right now.
I asked about the AdRip. Yeah, just on the token economic side.
Right. Yeah, the allocations
Yeah.
of tokens.
Yeah.
That was the question. So
Yeah.
we're balanced is less heavy on the Dow fund than you guys. So
I see.
Yeah.
yeah, and I said I regretted it, and then blah blah blah.
I see. Yeah. Token economic side, I think it's interesting one, and it's like somewhat unique to crypto. So I think there's probably a lot of potential there. But again, as Scott mentioned, I think a lot of that needs to be A/B tested. So it does need quite a bit of governance proposals to go through, change things, and see how those changes have actually impacted the protocol in a positive way or a negative way. I think in general, though, to start off, I think having a strong DAO fund is important because like in the end, for end users, it's the kind of circulating supply is what matters. So I think actually having a decent amount of portion locked up in the DAO fund really doesn't impact, I think, end users to certain degrees, but also gives the protocol like enough basis to do multiple things. So I think it's good to have like a pretty strong DAO fund that has like a decent amount of its native tokens. Another thing I'm trying to spend more time is like how do you diversify these basically the DAO fund. So that's something I think a lot of these protocols are trying to figure out. And I'm personally also trying to figure out what the latest trend there is and what can be implemented there.
Yeah, cool. Is it right me saying so? I mean, putting most of the tokens in the DAO fund, it kind of helps to prevent kind of like pumps and dumps, and kind of like helps to maintain stability of the token. Is that a right way of thinking about it? Also,
I don't necessarily think so. I mean, again, I got no financial advice here, but I don't. Basically, what I don't think having, let's say, 10% in the DAO funds, 40% in the DAO fund, or even 90% in the DAO fund really impacts the end users in the typical activities because, only circulating supply really typically matters.
Okay.
And I would typically think of the ones locked up in the DAO fund as like non-circulating supply, unless there's and they are released for something specific.
Yeah.
If you look at vehicles and stuff, like they are mostly based off the circulating supply, and then most of these don't count actually the ones in the DAO fund, for example. I think.
Cool. I just want to talk about my next question is on the idea of obviously the decentralized governance and DAOs. Is obviously to remove the human element of it and to ensure kind of the smart contract code deploys values impartially. But obviously certain aspects of a DeFi protocol, which I actually mentioned in one of the first DeFi discussions, certain aspects of a DeFi protocol is centralized. There were some issues with Uniswap as well. Obviously the website interface, web hosting, there are certain elements that's centralized, and also the whole process of governance, discussion boards and forums and all of that part is still centralized and can be subject to manipulation, or there's a possibility of that. What is being worked out on that front in terms of from a governance perspective and voting and discussion and putting out proposals? Can that element be just decentralized, or is that a step too far, Scott?
So which element be decentralized? Like the governance and voting, you said?
Yeah, just the proposals. I mean, just the governance, because obviously that's the interface. Obviously, it's controlled by someone putting stuff up. They can decide. A team member can potentially decide to play around with it and put. I mean, not that it happens, but there's a possibility of that. Is a possibility of that part being decentralized?
I guess there's kind of two pieces to your question here. One, you've mentioned the front end a couple of times, and I would say that front end is something that allows you to interact with a DAO, and it's kind of like a bonus, that the team supplies. A DAO, in my view, like thinking about the definition, is something that's operated by smart contracts. Is kind of a key aspect of it. The entire thing can operate without an interface. Somebody else could come along and feel that balanced, the one at balance.network is not working properly or is manipulative or something that the team is doing that they don't like, and they could just spin up their own and get the community to use that. So I think that's kind of a key point there. And then on the governance side specifically, like one thing that we're introducing in our next upgrade is the ability for anybody to submit a proposal and have it taken to vote. Again, through our interface, but also, again, if they didn't want to use the interface, they could submit their own vote directly through the smart contract. And there will be, protections in place to prevent spam and stuff. There's a $100 balanced dollar fee for submitting a proposal that goes to the Dow fund, and you need to have a minimum of 10 basis points of the state supply in order to submit something, just to prevent spam and have only serious proposals.
Okay. All right. Daiki, what's your take on it?
So I mean, pretty similar. I think Scott and I share a pretty similar view on this. I think front end can be basically done by anyone. I mean, it's really the smart contract end that's just not really controlled by anyone, and that's going to be the case. I mean, I think it's only the case for Balance, and it's going to be the case for Ohm as well. So anyone can simply open up their own front end if they don't like the current front end that's going to be deployed. We're already seeing that happening with stuff like Unisol, I think. And the governance part, I think, we're just probably going to, from the Ohm side, I think we're going to implement a lot of what Balance team has. So yeah, that's that.
I mean, we spoke a bit earlier on the Dow fund and treasury, but I think that's for me as well. I think it's a very important element of how users can create value to the protocol in how to utilize the Dow treasury. We spoke about, I spoke from the introduction as well about the culture, creating the culture, and I think the Dow fund treasury has a very important role to kind of fund that culture, create that meme factor and create kind of an aura of behind the protocol and create that atmosphere. What are the certain things that can be done, from a Dow treasury? What kind of things do you want to see funded and really work done? But maybe I can start with Daiki on that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit early to tell. But I think can be a lot of different things, and community-led can be community events, or can be community merchandising, or for any one-off these marketing initiatives, and then any kind of collaboration with external projects that requires its own native tokens. So it's pretty broad spectrum, I think I would say.
And just to kind of add more specifics there, I'd say hackathons, potentially exchange listings. I kind of was thinking about that one. Might be difficult when it comes to negotiating with the exchange and doing that publicly. I don't think exchanges would be that interested in sharing all their pricing and stuff publicly on a forum. So that could get a little weird. But so exchange listing, hackathons, temporary incentive programs that I mentioned earlier. I think bug bounty is a big one. So being able to afford a bigger bug bounty for Balanced is something that we may propose at some point, having raising the bar on that. But yeah.
Oh, and then obviously, fingers crossed, none of these happen. But in case there is an exploit, I think also the fund, it'll be a good source to basically more as a proportionally insurance.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I've been speaking to Daiki also on the part of NFTs, and I just shared recently in terms of driven finance, kind of trying to buy NFTs and really trying to create the culture behind them, trying to kind of create a DAO to DAO kind of, so their plan is kind of look at, creating their own NFTs, selling it, kind of creating more value for the DAO fund, the treasury and things. Is that obviously with the hype of the NFTs, is that something that we can probably create some culture and something unique about the protocol?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think these DeFi, NFT, DAO, metaverse, I think will eventually become kind of all all into one place eventually. So DeFi and DAO are really talking about it. think NFT will come into place. So actually, since you're bringing it up, I mean, there will be an introduction of Om NFTs pretty soon. So hopefully that will help kind of create culture for the Om community. And then, with those kind of cultures being created, I think hopefully when there is like a metaverse created with the Icon Network, I'd love to meet all of these folks on the metaverse with, these different NFTs. I think these will all kind of come together eventually at some point.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. So, like a year or two down the line, guys. I mean, obviously, the regulatory framework, is still uncertain and always changes, especially in the US all the time. Where do you want to see the functioning of DAO and governance? Where do you want OM and balance to be? What do you want to see? Kind of, how do you want it to be like functioning? Like, in terms of the voting, what kind of things do you want to see being voted on and things like that, Scott?
Yeah, I'd say I think like being flexible. Like once we get to kind of like a steady state, I think a lot of the votes will be centered around, like how do we optimize revenue at this point? So adjustments to origination fees, adjustments to incentive programs. Like that's kind of what I'm hoping to get to is kind of like getting to that steady state where it's more like it's like totally feature complete. We have all the components that we need. The staking mechanism is how we like it. Everything's kind of working properly, and we're kind of just voting on how to optimize at this point. I mean, like it's more like strategy versus adding different components and fixing things. I'm not sure if this is going to be relatable for everybody, but I'm thinking of it almost like golf, where like for the first several years of your golf experience, you're literally just trying to figure out how to get your swing right, and then from there, like once the swing is kind of second nature, then it's more of a strategy game. Like what club should I use? Should I be going a line drive? Should I be doing a lob shot? Like I want to get balanced to that steady state where it's more of a strategy game rather than trying to get all the pieces in place and just swinging right.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, you mentioned about experimenting. I mean, I think a DAO, really needs to look at, I mean, there's no right answer. I mean, it's the half the battle is about trial and error. I mean, if it doesn't really work out, you can always go back to the previous one. So, it's, as you mentioned about experimenting, and I guess being kind of bold to take the step. Don't worry about issues that can happen. It can happen, and if it doesn't work out, go back to the original plan, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Daiki, what are your thoughts on that? In terms of what you want to see in the next year or two for
Yeah, it hasn't even launched yet, so it is a difficult one. That's what I'm saying. But I think once Om launches, we'll see like a lot of things people want to change, right? But I think something to just remind of people is like like even if there's something you want to change, I'll probably think about it once more and then kind of discuss it amongst community before like pushing specific proposals, because like there isn't, if you think about it, there isn't a product that can really satisfy everyone. So it always has to be somewhere in the middle. And obviously I'm all in for like improving the protocol in general, but there will be probably like time to time where people are basically debating whether this is right or that is right, and there is really no correct answer for these things. So I'm just hoping that there's more of like a constructive communication amongst the community members to really benefit the protocol in the long term. And I just hope that more of those productive discussions happen in general.
Okay. Guys, sorry, I've been kind of too engrossed in the conversation with Scott and Daiki. If you guys have any questions, please, raise your hand. Just join in the conversation. Yeah, I mean, if there's any
maybe
questions.
for next 10 minutes, if anyone want to join, maybe we can kind of have them kind of come up to the stage and ask questions.
Yeah,
maybe. I think you can raise your hands, and then we can kind of get you up to the stage. talk to ask any questions.
Yeah, I know Steven is one of he's a gem when he comes to the Discord channel. He's always answering questions. Very 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 efficient.
There he is.
Oh, superb.
Hand raised.
Hi Steven, how's it going?
What's up, Steven? You're on mute. Gotta unmute yourself there, bud.
Oh, hi guys.
Hey Steven.
I'm glad to finally join live. It hasn't been easy due to the different time zones.
Right.
But I know Scott is about to leave, so I'll try to keep it short. And then skip for the moment the general DAO questions. But I would like to ask something that was asked yesterday also on Discord channel. And this is related to launching, and then how to create leverage for BN USD onto one of the questions was asked: are there plans to create incentivized pairs for users of Balanced?
Incentivized pairs?
Unincentivized, so that the users can create their own pairs. For example, if someone wants to create a pair, a direct pair, BNUSD to USDC, for example.
Right. Yeah. That although it's not available to interface, that is currently available at the smart contract level for a developer to come in and make their own pair, set their own price. It's all possible, and then we would just add it to the front end. The most decentralized path possible would be for a developer to list their own pair on the DEX via the smart contract, and then submit a pull request on our front end repo, which is also open source, to add their pair to the front end, so people can supply liquidity and trade who are non-devs.
Right.
And that's currently available, but we are planning on adding user interface components as well.
Yeah, and are you maybe also considering to create multi-swap pairs, so in which the in-between swap to Ohm can happen in the background?
Yes, yeah, transaction routing is at implementation right now.
Right. Okay. Good to hear.
Yep.
I think it was Fez, or maybe someone was going to ask Balance team about creating like one of these stablecoin pairs, and then
yes, Fez did ask me, and I gave him a similar response that I gave to Steven just there.
Yeah.
I was also thinking. I heard about diversifying the DAO fund. I was thinking maybe it would be a good idea to sell the native token to the token holders at a small discount for the desired asset, being ICX, USDS, or BNUSD. I do think that a lockup period then would be required to avoid immediate arbitrage selling.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But having this commitment, in my opinion, will also make it easier for Balance, for example, to get the vote for increasing the DAO fund allocation approved. Is this something that you would consider?
Yeah, I'd be open to that. It definitely takes some development. It's not something that can be done automatically, but what we could do is have like a community developer could build what you just described as a smart contract, and then we could execute a vote that just sends some balance tokens from the DAO fund to that new smart contract if someone wanted to kind of streamline that feature.
Oh, okay. And then a question for both Aki and for Scott. The BTP partner networks usually are proof of stake networks. Adding these assets to Balanced and Ohm would require a liquid version, preferably like SICX. Otherwise, the staking rewards would be lost. So the staking pool, I assume, would be on the native chain side. Do you see any trust issues arising in adding these as collateral? A compromised staking pool can cause a lot of trouble for the synthetic assets or loan it is supposed to back.
That is true. Yeah, that's a fair point. I was actually thinking that it would be the native tokens, but we could also allow, the SICX equivalent from these other protocols to be what's it called, to be the collateral type. I think that's just kind of up to people to vote on their comfortability. I think like generally I would probably be comfortable with it, depending on who developed the staking pool. If it was developed by the team themselves, then I would definitely be very comfortable. And see, what else did I want to say about that? Oh yeah, we also plan on having like a debt ceiling per asset type, so we're not going to go nuts with like having, you know, all of a sudden 99% of balanced dollars are backed by, you know, like near protocol liquid version of their stake token, for example.
Okay.
Speaking of which, that is my cue to go. Got a call in 2 minutes, so I'm going to hop and get ready for that. So really appreciate the time.
Thanks a lot, Scott. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for coming in. Thanks a lot. Hopefully we can have you again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. Happy to come back. So talk to you guys later. Take it easy.
All right, take care. Have a good day.
All right. I can stay for extra few minutes. If there are any last minute questions, I can answer. I guess just to answer some of the questions Steven asked, I think Scott, I've been talking about a lot about like how, like what are some good practice in the industry. I think Poops are also mentioned in the Defi Academy channel, but we've been kind of looking at some examples like what Olympus. It's like another decentralized stablecoin doing with their DAI own pair. And then also I think Index Coop was doing something with Balancer to basically diversify their treasury. So we're looking at some of these things that are happening in the industry, but obviously these things require a smart contract development, which is like not a, you know, like it is like pretty, I guess, intensive development, and considering different priorities in terms of like improving the protocol or just like trying to figure out where it sits in terms of the priority, I think. But yeah, I would love to kind of hear more kind of best practices you guys are seeing from the industry as well. Always good to have more data points in general. So
yeah, Scott, just a bit on sorry, Daiki, on that. How, like, in terms of diversification of the DAO treasury, in terms of how are you planning on holding? Like, is it going to be mainly stablecoin based, or are you planning to diversify in the hold, or in terms of, or is it going to be mainly on with OHM tokens? Are you going to?
That's all for discussion, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everything is for discussion.
And when do you think is going to be like the first kind of governance vote proposal? Kind of like, what kind of timeline are we looking at?
I think we'll know after the launch. West Cons, there's like nothing major we need to improve after the launch.
Okay.
But I mean, I know like Daos team was quite hectic after the launch, so I think we'll figure it out after. I think after the launch.
All right.
I might have another question I would like to hear Daiki's take on. People have been asking, of course, why BNUSD isn't one of the starting assets for the OHM launch, and I see the reason why. I believe there would be a good reason for people to also want to borrow BNUSD, and I think there are a lot of people sitting on BNUSD, but not knowing what to do with it. And of course, they want to lend it and want to earn additional interest on it. But on the other hand, to create a decent interest, there need to be enough people wanting to borrow it.
Yep.
What do you think it would take for BNUSD to what use cases do we need for that to happen?
Yeah, I think you're on point. So I think a lot of people are just looking at the lending side because they have assets, but I mean, technically you're not going to get any interest if there is no one borrowing it, right? So I think USDC, USDS, we foresee some demand for it because, you know, either you want to basically put it into your bank account through USDS, or if you want to just unwrap it and use it in Ethereum. So there's like a, you know, like use case for these assets. Right now, there is nothing you can really do. So you're basically passing it off to OHM, but then no one will also, again, like borrow BNUSD if there's no incentive. So we do need more use case for BNUSD, which I think, you know, Balance team is actively looking into, and then with their community. And I think the other part, Scott would have been probably better if he was here. But I think there's like some more mechanisms that Balance team is trying to implement along with the community for the actual stabilization of the BNUSD price as well. So hopefully when those things are more sorted out, I think it'd be a good time for Ohm community to vote in BNUSD, for example.
Yeah, I think maybe also it was discussed, I believe, using BNUSD itself to also mint other synthetic assets. So not only ICX, but also using the BNUSD.
Yeah, I mean, Scott and I have a different perspective on it, but it creates more leverage opportunity, but at the same time, it gets more risky as a result, right? Because you're utilizing the created synthetic asset that you created to basically create more synthetic assets. So it's basically you're starting to get into like, these derivatives that you would see in the regular financial world where it has to be very well designed, otherwise it can collapse. So
I agree.
Yeah. I think we have one guy.
I'll take questions, one from Poster left. So maybe RJR. And then we can kind of call it. Question?
Hi, RJR. I think you're muted.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. I think I was muted earlier on. I actually missed most of your session, but I just wanted to ask really briefly, what can we do on our part to help you guys? Because, again, it's one thing to have an amazing project. Another thing to actually have people to support your work. What can we do as users of your platform, for example, to support your work as well? And it might sound cliche, but again, I have no clue. It would be good to just hear your perspectives.
Can I jump in here? Is it?
Yeah, please.
Nobody knows me here. I'm actually come from the world of DeFi on Ethereum. I've been working there for a couple of years now, but recently got very interested in what's going on over here and have gotten involved with these projects lately, specifically Balanced and Ohm. So I just wanted to kind of chip in there because I've been a part of like growing communities, specifically at Harvest Finance, where I was a community manager and now I'm a business developer. And I've seen that community grow. And the really cool thing so what I've always said is a community's job is to do everything they can do to allow the developers just to write code, right? And I think that there's a ton that we can do in the way of like community-based educational programs. Some like community-based marketing, for instance, like social media, like Twitter. There's so much that you can do, and we can use all types of people. And traditionally, we've wanted everybody to get involved and find something that they can do. And so I've had a lot of experience with that, and I'm happy to help like find a place for you or something you can do. We need translators. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of stuff for people to do. When things really kind of get kicked off and really get rolling. So I don't want to like overstep my bounds here and speak for the DAO or the team. Just trying to give kind of an outside point of view from somebody who's been through this experience before and like helped build a community and helped build a project.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that because I've tried to work on this similar projects before and it failed terribly. And so I know what it's like to actually put in a lot of work and not to get the support of the community. So really, I just want to help. If there's something that I can do on my part to be able to help, I really appreciate what you some of the inputs you have put in. And just want to find out what I could do in my little way just to help.
I think that's great. So we actually appreciate that, and I think that's why the airdrop announcement that happened yesterday. It's I think obviously Ohm early community supporters are getting like the most Ohm tokens as part of the airdrop, and we also have like Monk's application. If you look at the Get Involved sub channel, so the monks there are like the ones who specifically express like how they want to help, and if you don't know how you can help, you can always like just kind of ask questions in the question channel or DM me as well. But as Poopster said, I think what's really fascinating about DAO is that, I mean, anyone can help. I've received help from like people who've offered translation to like who've offered to create images, who've offered to create music for the NFT that's about to be released. You know, people who've offered to, you know, basically promote the awareness. For example, we have this airdrop to existing Aave and comp users. So like spreading words around that would be helpful. I mean, I've started talking to like my parents to kind of try using this, you know, bridge flow. They don't know anything about crypto, but like using bridge to actually deposit into Ohm. Just like, you know, all these things can be helpful. So I think that's like what's really fascinating, because like there's a place for everyone. And if you're still not sure, like always just feel free to open up in the questions in the general chat or even DM me as well. And then if you know what you kind of want to contribute on specifically, I'll like apply to be a monk to have like a very specific thing you can contribute on. And we have a separate channel for monks as well, actually.
And I'd be all for like helping set up like a community program here. Like, of course, we're probably going to need a bounties program, right? There's going to be all kinds of things that will be needed that as a small project, it's hard to see. But as, like I said, you know, somebody who's seen it from the other side and is looking at it now from this side, it's like, if you get started on these things early, you can avoid a lot of roadblocks. So like building out like community-based educational programs and like making it easy for people to onboard, kind of like DK just highlighted, like his parents or whatever. You know, making it easy for other people to use our products is going to be very key. And like I said, educating them. So like a lot of even just like infographics and things like that, very short, engaging type media. So once again, there will be a lot of things, and I'm sure RJ, you'll find your place to fit in. I would just encourage you to like stay active here, keep asking questions. You know, if you see something that needs to be done, you don't always have to ask. You know, this is we're a decentralized community. You know, go out and make some content. You know, you don't always have to. I know some people like to have some direction, and others, like myself, prefer just to be free to be able to do what we want to do. So, you know, it just depends on how you fit in here. But I thank you for stepping up and like asking how you can contribute, because that's very important. We need more people like that.
Yeah, it's really heartwarming to see that. I mean, you know, members, you know, just wanting to come and help out. That really inspires us to, you know.
I also think it's important to highlight that there are indeed various type of skill sets that can help out within the community. People might even not know that they have a skill set that is something that can be useful to grow the community. And maybe we should start listing the type of skills that we would like to have, and then build teams around those. Discord is a great platform to do it. You can create several sub channels, maybe a marketing channel, maybe a translation channel. The marketing channel can create something and then push it on to the translation channel. So yeah, I think maybe we should create a framework.
That's a great idea. I do have a little experience. Like with UMA, we're doing that very same thing right now. We're creating like a community-based educational DAO for this exact purpose and doing all those things you just mentioned. So I do agree. I think that'd be a great way to go to like get more community engagement.
Oh, awesome! So
set some roles.
You're involved in UMA as well. That's awesome. It was very interesting option products you guys UMA brings out. Really nice to see some of those products.
Well, I've already been looking into how we could implement KPI options here on ICX via UMA, because their oracles are off chain. So like there's not any roadblocks, I don't think, to an actual collaboration between, and I thought that would be really neat if there was something we could do there. So I've been looking into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's really interesting, you know, how the, you know, even the DAO treasury, even the success tokens that UMA really has. It's a very interesting product.
Poopster, a question to you. What brought you to the Alchemy community? Was it the starting DeFi platforms like Ohm and Balanced, or was it ICE? And Yeah, because I've learned that your background is in Ethereum mostly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could give you the whole story. Like, I've got a crazy like, I don't even come from finance. Literally, I worked 20. I'm not going to give you all the whole story, but literally, I worked 20 years in sheet metal. I don't come from finance or from a tech background. I don't have any experience doing any of this stuff. I just am like RJ. I was passionate about it. I wanted to learn, and I just dove in and started learning and committing all my time to it. But yeah, sorry, what was the question specifically? I get derailed very easily.
Yeah, no problem. How did you specifically want to join the Icon ecosystem?
Oh yeah, so
triggered you.
I actually got very interested in Icon back in it was I guess right after the ICO boom. So I started dollar cost averaging in when it was near the bottom, I believe. I liked what the idea behind what Icon was doing. And then, to be honest, like I said, I just got very involved with farming on Ethereum. I was basically a yield farmer before I secured positions with these protocols, and that's how I got my start. But yeah, I'm actually involved with I consider myself a farmer, so I'm farming on Tezos as well. I like to check out all the I don't like to limit myself to like one specific chain for DeFi, right? I think that there's going to be tons of opportunities on and I really loved what Icon is doing with the new update coming out, and also with the EVM compatible chain. I think that's going to be awesome to be able to bridge these two communities, and that will bring a lot more people into our ecosystem here. So I'm really excited for that as well. And so everything kind of, I just kind of noticed. I don't remember even what it was. I saw a video or saw a tweet about Balance Network and jumped right in. Otherwise, I wouldn't have found out. I think I saw a tweet, and was super excited to see DeFi growing here on different chains, and especially on Icon, one that I'd been kind of investing in long term into. So, yeah, I wanted to get involved and be a part of this. I think it's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see different. You don't really often hear that from Ethereum user wanting to go to other chains and check what's going on. You're a unique Ethereum user.
I don't like that. I don't like to be somebody asked me if I was a Ethereum maxi. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I just love DeFi. I consider myself a disciple of DeFi, and whatever chain it's on, I don't want to be closed-minded. And to be honest with you, a lot of the Ethereum community feels the same way. I think that you just hear certain things from a lot of vocal leaders, but there's actually a lot of us who are very interested in all aspects of DeFi on chain agnostic DeFi. So I think we'll see a lot of growth here very rapidly.
Yeah, same here. All right.
Speaking of which,
sorry,
one last thing. Speaking of which, Poster, since you do come from that kind of community a bit more, so we've announced this airdrop to potential Aave compound users. And this is just a way of us kind of thinking kind of the existing DeFi community who's paved the road for the lending space. What do you think is kind of the best way to spread the words to the existing Aave compound users about this airdrop opportunity?
Well, and here's the thing, with it being only the first 1,600, I don't know what anti-Sybil measures are in place to ensure, that's going to be very tricky, to be honest with you, because with only 1,600, it's you want to advertise it, but at the same time, you want to advertise it to the right people and make sure that the wrong people don't see it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I mean, I would maybe reach out to them and see if they'd be willing to do some co-marketing. To be honest with you, I'm not very. I don't have any people that I know directly on the Aave or Compound teams, but I'd be happy to reach out and see if they wanted to, even if they would just retweet something like that. I think it would be pretty big for us, right?
Yeah, so I've actually reached out to Aave Compound team and then haven't really heard back from them. I'm assuming there's not too much interest from them. just because it's probably like on the newer side. So I think that probably the best way to just like kind of share it within their Discord or Telegram, maybe without obviously being spamish, but just like sharing it to their community.
Sure.
I just don't know like what is considered like not intrusive, but at the same time just sharing good information for their community. So just trying to figure out what the right balance there is.
I think that the Aave Discord would definitely be open to it. And I do actually know somebody there I can ask about this. I just wanted to make sure we're not considered like shilling anything or posting something we're not supposed to be.
Yep.
Compound's another story. I don't. I'm not a Compound customer, so I'm not a user. I'm not an investor. I'm an Aave guy. So, So I don't know much about what how anything works there really.
Okay, sounds good. Well, maybe you can try with Aave one first.
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to Pablo there and see what he says. I think that, we can probably figure something out. So I'll take that as an action item and then jump on top of that as soon as we get off here.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, I'm glad that this one was quite active and interactive compared to previous ones.
Yeah. I think we've ticked a small box in our objectives, Daiki.
Yep.
Do you think, I got a question real quick before we end. Do you think there's going to be pushback from the ICX community, like towards the Ethereum community? Or do you think that it's going to be like, I don't know, coming from the outside, I don't know exactly how the ICX community, how the Icon community views the Ethereum ecosystem.
I don't really see why they would be against it. I mean, like, I think Icon's goal is to always like make sure embrace all the communities with the interoperability anyway. So I don't really see that happening, I think, personally.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure like we were all aligned on the same goal and had the same. Because to be honest with you, I spent some time and like I said, I farmed Tezos as well, and over there they're very anti-Ethereum, and like it turned me off from like even working with them. I didn't even want to, because it was all like it was all a competition. It wasn't about like how can we work with these. There was no co-op at all. So I was
you don't need. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Icon team has been kind of reaching out to multiple protocols for PTP purpose, and it is pretty interesting. Kind of if you see how different protocols respond to potential interoperability, because like to us, like interoperability is all about just connecting different protocols. Like we're all in this together, really trying to push this decentralization ethos. But yeah, some protocols do seem to have this like it's either me or you kind of a mentality.
Yeah, but I think there's room for everybody here. So.
Of course.
Could I just add something real quick into that? I think perhaps a few years ago, this would have been a completely different conversation, because then everybody was trying to. It's more it's either me or you, like you guys have said. But I think if you see what is going on around, with a lot, the theme right now is interoperability, and I think everybody is now working towards that goal more or less, and that's why you see a lot of you see so many what do you call it? You just see a lot of platforms supporting one another, and I think that won't be a problem going forward. I think they will actually welcome that personally. I might be wrong, but that's what I think anyway.
No, I hope so. I hope so. I like that about this ecosystem here, because coming from Ethereum, it's very competitive. Like, for instance, working at Harvest Finance, we have people that we can and can't negotiate with because of the fact that Yearn Finance holds moats around certain protocols and stuff, right? So I don't like that. And in fact, I'd suggested us reaching out to Yearn and doing a collaboration. I feel like we should all be able to build together, right? That's kind of my feeling. So like, I think that, I welcome like all that kind of stuff, and just wanted to make sure that I think that'll be important for us, like when that time comes, especially when ICE is launched, to like extend that olive branch.
Yeah. I think this silo-based thinking doesn't really help the crypto industry in general.
Yep, totally. I mean, this space it's going to get so much larger. I mean, it's really not about competition, but more about growing the pie together right now.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was a good end to this session then.
Yeah, all right. Take care, guys. Hopefully stay tuned for our next session. We'll keep you posted on the discussion topic very soon. Thanks, guys, for joining in. Thanks a lot, Daiki.
And then next time, all will be launched by then.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.